this just opportunity to gather. And Father, we just ask that you would be with us and be with these men and women as they discuss the city's business, that you would give them clear hearts, clear heads, and clear minds as they seek to serve the city of Saginaw. We ask your blessing in all these proceedings today, Father, and we just once again thank you for the opportunity that you give us for life and breath. For your Son's name we pray, amen.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Item 1D is audience participation. Any item that is covered on the agenda you're allowed to speak to, please see the city secretary, or if it is a public hearing, I will call for speakers at the appropriate time. So I apologize, it's a little warm in here tonight. We're having a little AC issue, but hopefully that will get resolved. I promise we did pay our bills, but I think we're just a little warm. All right, moving forward to the consent agenda. 2A is action regarding minutes of May 7th. B is action regarding minutes of May 14th. C is action regarding appointment of Councilmember St. Clair to Crime Control and Prevention District. D is action regarding appointment of Councilmember St. Clair to Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone. E is action regarding Chapter 380 Economic Development Incentive Agreement with Fuel City. F, action regarding approval of an amendment to the funding interlocal agreement with Tarrant County related to the construction of the intersection at FM 156 and East Industrial. G is action regarding agreement to provide professional services between the City of Saginaw and Randy Edwards. H, action regarding individual project order with Kimberly Horn for the 50th year Community Development Block Grant for Southern Avenue.
There's one on the back.
I got one here. I is action regarding purchase of 2 half-ton service trucks for the Water Department. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second? Paul, seconds. All right, we're going to need to vote by hand tonight. I have a little issue with this, strictly mine, so I can't vote like this. So all in favor, raise your right hand. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Councilmember Big Horse is unable to attend this evening. All right, moving on. Item 3A, employee recognition presentation. City Manager Gabe Rand.
Mayor and council, no employee recognitions tonight, although our next meeting we will have a couple from a couple departments.
Council, any good news we need to share? Anything we need to highlight? I can't think of anything. Y'all have anything?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Just want to give everybody an opportunity. 3B, here's Professional Fellows presentation. This is our friend from Timor-Leste, Julio. Come on up. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you. I hope all y'all have had a chance to meet him.
Yes. My respect to re-elected mayor, all right, and to the members of the city council, and everyone who is in this room. Good evening, boa noite, selamat malam, and kalandiak. My name is Julião Mendes da Costa. I am an exchange fellow under the program of YSILI, which stands for Young Southeast Asia Initiative Leaders, under the theme of sustainable development and the environment. And I am placed in state of Texas in the city of Saginaw. So I'm going to present to you about my country, as well as the activities that I've been doing by far here in City Saginaw. So a lot of Americans have no idea where Timor-Leste is or East Timor is. So this is a very young nation. It got independence in 2002. So we were colonized by Portugal for 450 years. And then once Portugal left, and then Indonesia came in, and then for 24 years colonized, and then they left in 1999, and then we got independence in 2002. That's why my greeting before was in 4 languages, because we speak Portuguese, we speak Bahasa Indonesia, we speak English, and we speak Tetung, which is our native language. So Portuguese and Tetung is the official language. English is the professional language, like in the daily work, and Bahasa Indonesia is also daily work as well as at home. So Timor-Leste, geographically by the Indonesia and Australia, which is close to Darwin. It's like 45 minutes flights. So we have 14 municipalities, and then we only have 1.3 million people that are not in Timor-Leste. So as you could see from the pictures, these are the costume, the tribes, the cultural costumes from the 14 municipalities. This is what we call ties. This used for our traditional ceremony. This ties is made by the dyed cottons. It's mainly done by women. It's very complex and takes several hours to be able to finish one product. So this is we call ties. Normally we use for our traditional ceremony and use it for appreciate someone who has done a good work. So that's our flag. And surprisingly, we're also using the US dollars as our currency because we believe it's the stable currency and you used it worldwide. Our national anthem is Patria, which means the homeland. And then that's our president and the prime minister. We are the semi-presidential system. So if you see from the map, someone has searched that up. We are the land. Geographically, it's shaped as a crocodile, so that's why we call it Crocoland. So basically, we're very mountainous and by the waters. We have a lot of crocodile too. So that's typically the city. We are predominantly Christian, Catholic, 99%. So as you could see, that's the cathedrals. We also have Pope's statue that is as a gift from the Indonesian invasion, and we also have the Jesus Christ statue as one of the country's iconic. And yes, we have a government palace and one museum that you could see from the right-hand side. So this is typically the life in the islands. We are very, it's very poor there. One of the poor country in Southeast Asia. Like mainly people are selling food on the streets or vegetables on the streets. So we are 80% agriculture farmers. We grow a lot of vegetables. We have our oil and gas. It's now running cooperation with the Australian company. That's the only resources that we have, but we also have coffee industrials and other tourism qualities that can offer. Yeah, as I mentioned, we are very in the islands, so surrounded by the nature, very mountainous. We have waterfalls. And we do grow a lot of rice, and we have a lot of beans, and we eat a lot of beans too. So these are the typical food that we have. I told some of the American friends that we don't eat meat every day. We only eat meat in special occasions. But now some people have started to have meat in their daily meals, but yeah, it's not common for everyone back home. So these are the typical regional popular ingredients back home. So it's been 4 weeks I've been here. I have only 1 week left in here. So the activities that I've been doing is connecting through a company that I'm interested in, since I work as in a nonprofit NGO back home in the recycling project. So I was able to connect to one of the company in Mikini, the material facility, recycling facility. I was able to do a tour to the company's building and was able to witness the process of how they're doing with the recycling and recovery process on that building, and also travel to the landfill in Fort Worth and was able to see how they integrated the landscape for green, like they also plant grass and trees to make it more environmentally friendly. So as attending the community meeting, it's great to see how community really work together with the the city council to be able to address concerns, raise concern and address concern, which is a great thing. And then I also work with the Public Works on with the inspections team, going to the food industry and to do a little bit of tour and see how the food is processing, and also attending some meetings with the Waste Connections team. Those are mainly the selfies. We love selfie. So I was able to work with the inspections team and with the water departments and the police department, but I didn't have a chance to put the fire department in there because it was like I already submitted the presentation. But yeah, I did work with the fire department though. Yeah, it was fun to ride a car with the police, like to be able to go around the neighborhood and attend in different cases. It's kind of cool. Yeah. So that's basically it. I'm still looking I just had a Whataburger today. They said you will not consider in Texas if you haven't had any Whataburgers. So I just tried it today. It was good. Yeah. So I think that's it, my presentation for today. Thank you so much.
Council, any questions, council, for Leo?
Any questions? Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Very nice to meet you. Any pictures?
Yeah, get a picture of him standing next to the council.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Jacket. There you go. There you go.
Can you get everybody? Thank you, Leo. Thank you, folks. Item 3C, Maria Luisa, Mayor's Youth Advisory Council Recognition Ceremony. Come on in.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we are back today with our 2024 Mayor's Youth Advisory Council members. This year we had 12, and last council meeting they were here presenting their proposals to council relating to youth programs that they want to implement in the city. And this week we want to recognize them for their hard work and all of their effort that they've had these past 4 or 5 months. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay. We can start. All right. So we will have the mayor come up and stand by the podium. Once we name them, then they'll pass by, and we're going to have them take a picture with you. And then at the end, we'll have all of the council members do a group photo with them. Okay. Pedro, where do you want to take a picture?
Okay. All right, well, with that, let's get started. First, we have Brooklyn Birch. All right. Round of applause. Then we'll do Dakota Waters. Isaac Solis. Big smile. Jesse Garcia. Rere Ifunshil. Sofía Arellano. Taylor Emerson. Congrats. Victoria Sabogal. Congrats. And last but not least, we have Joanna Kiyiga. We do have a couple of students who were also not able to make it, but we did want to make a mention of Tessa Allen and Reese Malone, who also participated in the last council meeting's presentation. So they also did a great job and deserve that recognition. And yes.
All right, item 3D, update on EMS ambulance transport service. For that, Fire Chief Doug Spears.
Good evening, council. This evening, my plan is to provide you with a somewhat high-level overview of where we are with our current ambulance transport service in MedStar. This morning, the Fort Worth City Council adopted a resolution essentially green-lighting the initiative to move the ambulance service component to the City of Fort Worth function and within the fire department. It will maintain the system as a multi-jurisdictional collaboration for the 13 non-Fort Worth member cities. There's a lot of moving parts and down in the weeds and details yet to be considered or worked out. But my intent tonight is to provide you with a little insight, realizing there will be some questions and a lot of discussions over the next few weeks and months as this is worked out. I'll try to move at a fair pace so we don't get bogged down tonight. I know the agenda is kind of lengthy. And again, this won't be our last conversation, probably the first of many, and any questions certainly send to me, and I'll be really responsive in getting those answered for you. I will start out saying I support Fort Worth and the others, how they've handled this EMS situation we find ourselves in, and remain confident that what will result is an enhanced core city service for all the member cities above what we enjoy today. I'm confident that will occur. So we'll start out with a little history, right, of where we came from. So the Metropolitan EMS Authority, commonly known as MedStar, was established in 1986 by the City of Fort Worth. And to my knowledge, Saginaw has always been a member of that from the very beginning, as most of the cities were. It really brought us into the age of a modern EMS system when they made that. And it was created through an interlocal agreement with all the 15 member cities at the time. Last year, Burleson made the decision to exit the system and start their own fire-based service. Many of those factors that contributed to their decision are some of the issues that we now find ourselves in creating this situation. So the service area is 436 square miles, very large area. 101 million residents and 190 calls annually. That's current. Obviously, that's increasing. The more people move here, the more the service is utilized. It is operated as a public utility model, meaning it's user fee funded, not any direct funding support from the cities. There has been some conversations in the past that it was funded through member city contributions. To be clear, what that really was is the city had an option to provide some funding to buy down what that actual ambulance cost would be if they had a citizen use that. In other words, if an average ambulance bill is $1,700, they could pay a set amount, and really their average ambulance bill would be $1,600. So it never really required funding from the cities, to my knowledge, and going back through the history. It's currently overseen by a 9-member board of directors, 5 of those from the city of Fort Worth, 1 being the fire chief, and 4 appointees, not their city council. There's 2 members from the First Emergency Physicians Advisory Board, and there's a member city representative, and then there's a First Responder Advisory Board representative, and that's currently the position I hold for the first responders on the MIAMSA board. Today, there's a $65 million budget and approximately 550 employees, so that's a very large organization, much larger than our city organization, so it's a pretty large animal. Fort Worth is 90% of the system, meaning 90% of the calls, resources are spent for Fort Worth. In comparison, Saginaw, we're about 1.4%, but the remaining 13 member cities make up the 10%, with Fort Worth being the 90%. Just a quick slide of all the member cities, remembering that Burleson used to be a member city and they're not on there. Those are the cities that are currently members of the service area. Current situation, expenditures exceed revenues, not rocket science. If you're outgoing more than you're taking in, I don't know any organization or initiative that can sustain that dynamic for very long. What's occurring was forecasted to occur in the time frame that we're in. It was more forecasted to be a gradual approach where those lines of expenditures and resources or revenues kind of gradually went along together, and it was more of an X than it was a gradual thing. Accelerated and exacerbated by COVID was a primary culprit of that, right? Almost every business suffered during that point. The usage of the ambulance went way up, cost went way up, staff being out, overtime increased, so there were many months during that period, and some months even still today, where reserves were spent to keep the operation running. Workforce challenges, some of the same challenges we find ourselves in with recruitment and retention in the EMS field across all public safety. They're experiencing those challenges. There's less people inclined to go into the EMS field, and there's a lot of competition for those services among fire departments and hospitals, primarily taking paramedics from pre-hospital EMS and using them more in the hospital capacity. Just they're a little bit cheaper than the nurse, and they have a different skill set that fits really well, particularly the ERs of hospitals. Cost increases, which again, like we're experiencing today, everything costs a lot more. Particularly everything public safety related and EMS related, the costs have jumped up substantially. It includes utilities, fuel, everything that you use, the commodity has increased drastically. That's another reason for where we find ourselves. And then increased service demand, not only because our area is growing, but there's an increase for the services. 911 has become the first shop for non-emergency as well as emergency services when you need assistance, right? I always relate that to any time you call a doctor's office to get an appointment, the first thing they ask you is your name, the second is what's your insurance information. There's a vast majority of people that don't have insurance information, and they have to rely on 911 for any care that they might need. Net revenue per transport, what MedStar currently takes in is $404. The cost to offer that service is $455. A lot of that is driven by what private insurance will pay. A lot of that's driven by federal stuff, and I'll cover that in a little bit. And the common response is why can't you just increase the cost of the ambulance service? Well, you could bill it at $3,000, but that's not going to increase the revenue you get coming in, right? Mm-hmm. And there was all the member cities, if you remember back, I think it was about 2001, we did give the approval to increase the rates that MedStar charges folks, but that didn't result in any additional revenue. 25 to 30% of the calls, there's really no form of payment. It's private pay and results in no payment. Either people that can't afford to pay, a large part of them, are people unwilling to pay. And unfortunately, you still have to offer services to those people. Again, approximately 55% is Medicare and Medicaid. The federal reimbursement is below the cost of what the service actually costs, somewhere in the range of $380, $390, depending on what level of coverage they have is their reimbursement rate. So currently, there's a really initiative with the federal government to try to get that increased. As that number's there, the private insurance obviously is wondering, well, why are we paying a much higher rate than what the federal government's willing to pay? So private insurance rates are always going down. Currently, there's some private insurance that aren't even covering ambulance service. So hopefully that's not a trend that continues, and legislation will address that. Our state's been a little more proactive to make sure that doesn't necessarily happen here. In 2023, the resource deployment was insufficient to meet the desired performance, but I do want to say there was nothing in jeopardy to make sure that we weren't meeting the needs of the citizens, right? What that means is response time suffered a little bit, and we really used in excess the workload, right? More workload on the people delivering the service. And for the next thing, the system workload beyond best practice threshold, hopefully everybody had a chance to do the light reading for this executive summary we sent to everybody. I know it's 60 pages, but the most informative information's in here, and every one of these things I'm talking about speaks in detail to this. So if you haven't had a chance, please read it. Much more informative than I'm ever going to be able to stand up here and provide for you. But again, the staff impact, using them for the unit hours or time on task is way beyond the best practice. And what's being presented now is even a little bit above what some EMS agencies are trying to incorporate. Obviously, the EMS system is not sustainable without public funding. That's where we find ourselves. Regardless of what model was chosen, it was going to cost every member city that's involved in that some type of funding, some portion of funding. That same scenario is being experienced all across the country. There's nothing unique about our service area or MedStar or any system that we do that is causing that problem that we're finding ourselves in. It's consistent across the country. Many public utility models are really watching this area to see if the solution being implemented is something they want to undertake, how that works out. Fort Worth commissioned a comprehensive assessment of the EMS system. I was a big supporter of this early on, and we needed to do a deep dive, thorough evaluation before we made any decisions to figure out where we needed to go in a long-time solution, not just a stopgap measure. As part of that assessment, these are the areas it was focused on. Finance is obviously a big component. Again, picking a model for the future. Who actually should govern the system, right? As I mentioned to you, a board. It's no secret I've had my conflicts being on the board with other board members. And I've said it publicly, I'll say it again, I give the board an F, right? And I'm on the board. Because the conversations we're having now, I wish we'd have had much earlier. Because now we're kind of in a predicament where we got to move a little quicker than what most people would be comfortable with. The 911 call handling, that's another animal that will be addressed, or another initiative that will be addressed. There's a lot of improvement that can be made in that, a lot of efficiencies in the system. Overall, it'll be better for the customer, the person that calls 911. But that again is another step that'll be taken. First, we got to move where we're headed, and then the 911 portion will be addressed. And then throughout, and much credit to MedStar and all the first responder organizations, maintaining a high priority on patient-centric care, delivering a high level of care. That's always been a focus, will always remain a focus, and never be put in jeopardy. Fort Worth had an EMS ad hoc committee made up of their council members to kind of oversee this process. Stakeholder input, there were many meetings. These are just some of the member meetings. Mayor Flippo attended one of those meetings we had in our city. So there was numerous opportunities for every stakeholder to provide input into the system. That's very important as to what's going to come back out, right? Key takeaways for that: to remain a multi-jurisdictional EMS system. No matter where you're at in this northwest part of the county in Fort Worth, you have the same level of care and consistency across, enjoying economies of scale, capacities built in for those unforeseen incidents or for surge during peak periods. That's what you get being in a multi-jurisdictional system. You have a lot more resources at your disposal should you need them. Establish an equitable funding method, which I think has been accomplished. Obviously, there may be a city that's done growing. They're not going to grow anymore. Fort Worth's still growing, Saginaw's still growing, so it was important. It's not fair for cities that may not be experiencing growth in their city to pay for services due to growth in other areas. Representation in the governance for the system, that will be done through the advisory boards and committees, much like MedStar is governed today, only it's through the Fort Worth City Council. And then, again, maintaining the high-quality patient care focus. The result, the system of governance will be moved to the City of Fort Worth. Much like our city runs, you depend on the subject matter experts, the fire chief, the police chief, public works director to give you information, but you're the ultimate authority that makes the decision. No difference in how the EMS portion of the agency will run. The Fort Worth City Council will be the primary person making that decision, and rightfully so. They're 90% of the system, absorbing 90% of the responsibility, but we will have our opportunity to kind of drive that. Ambulance service MedStar will be moved under the Fort Worth Fire Department. It will become part of the Fort Worth Fire Department operation. It won't be dual role firefighters. When I say dual role, we're certified in fire service and medical care as a firefighter. It'll be a single role service, so they're certified in EMS. So the vast majority of employees that are at MedStar today will be picked up and moved to the Fort Worth Fire Department. I put on there the civil service versus civilian service. There was a lot of discussion with that, and the easiest way to say why that's pertinent is if we have a policeman, there's certain protections under civil service, correct? The Fort Worth Fire Department, Police Department under civil service. So should we be out on the freeway and have an accident, there's a policeman, a fireman, and an EMS person standing there and they get hit by a car and unfortunately killed, you don't want a disparity between how that's treated for them and their families, right? You want that equal. The way to provide that is make sure that those folks are civil service. The member cities, our agreement, as we have an interlocal today as part of MIAMSA, it will have an interlocal agreement or contract through the City of Fort Worth. That hasn't been finalized yet, but that's ongoing. Medical direction to remain as independent oversight as it is today. So the medical director, he doesn't answer, or the medical direction in general doesn't answer necessarily the fire chief. So the decisions that the medical director makes are medically prudent and efficient to what we need. So it's clear that there's a clear delineation between those roles. Interfacility transports, which you will learn more about if you read this. Currently, MedStar's sole proprietor of all the EMS service in the service areas, so those interfacility transports will be given out to the private sector, which is much more appropriate for them to handle. And the focus for what will be created is more on the 911 aspect. 8-minute travel time, 90th percentile versus the current. System-wide, it's 13.5. I put 13 to 15 minutes in there. That's currently what we get in Saginaw as far as the arrival time. So that's being put as the benchmark, and that's being put in the agreement. There will be some standards that Fort Worth would be expected to provide in performance, and that being a key factor. The staff utilization that I talked about, this will address that 50 unit hour utilization, staff time on task. What that essentially means is that the time they're actually handling the call. They get sent on a call, transporting somebody to the hospital until they finish. What that doesn't include is the time that was necessary for them to write a report, clean the ambulance, restock the ambulance, recuperate psychologically from whatever call they just experienced, because sometimes they are pretty challenging. They were going from call to call to call and really wearing them out and not being prudent with the workforce, right? This is going to address that. Cost allocation, the most equitable method to all cities. I've got an example up here and I'll go over it with you. But really, the reimbursements, once you take that away, we've got a $65 million budget. Reimbursements would come to $54.5 million, and this is an example that if we did this last year in the current period, this would be pretty effective. So that leaves a $10.5 million deficit, correct? So all the 14 member cities need to make up that deficit and coming up with an equation to do that equitably. That's what this illustrates. So the $10.5 million that's left, you divide that by the total unit hours used. So for our city, it was 2,000. So you would take the unit hours used and divide that into 141, and you come up with a residual unit hour cost. So we'd multiply the unit hours we have to that cost, the 7406 in this illustration. And that's how we derive it, what our cost would be annually for the service. And that's based on actual hours used that will fluctuate up and down every year. There's a lot to be factored into this, and I can go into more detail with you so everybody understands that. There's probably a better venue to do that, not at the council meeting. But really confident this is the fairest way to do it. A lot of methods were looked at, and really this is what all the stakeholders decided on because it seemed to be like the most fairest method. So I will say one thing that we're looking at now for the upcoming budget year, what's being considered is none of the member cities owe a fee for that, correct? Because it's really going to be hard to pinpoint what that is with the move and a lot of costs that Fort Worth's going to incur. It really takes the agreement of all the member cities to agree to move all the assets to Fort Worth. So that's a point to really consider, and that may be why we would get a first-year pass. I would anticipate that next year, and what I plan for the budget is about $200,000 to make sure we got a conservative amount, and it's not going to be beyond that. But as we move forward over the next weeks and months, this will be dialed in much closer. And I'll just say, comparing this to an alternative, say if we chose the Burleson path and wanted to provide ambulance service within the fire department, well, that immediately recommendation would be to add 12 people. That's much more, it's over $1 million, right? If we consider $100,000 per firefighter, that's well over $1 million. So
Plus
this is,
equipment.
sir?
Plus equipment.
Correct. That's not even the cost of ambulance and all the supplies, the cost for getting everybody billed. There's a lot involved with that. So moving forward, we're looking at a 12 to 18 month transition period. Now that Fort Worth has adopted that resolution, that clock really starts now. The May 21st council meeting, that was the day they took formal action. I had this in there prior to that meeting, but they adopted the resolution. The next meeting on June 24th is here at the fire station for all the member cities. What Fort Worth is going to be looking for is all the cities that are continuing to stay in the system, which I anticipate all of them will be. They're going to need that hard commitment, but prior to that, they will be sending out the interlocal agreement or contract, whichever instrument that is, for the member cities to study and provide feedback on. The interlocal agreements, like I say, contracts distributed in June with feedback to Fort Worth on that June 24th meeting. Stakeholder engagements, the boards and committees will start to be formalized, so every member city or stakeholder will know kind of the role they would get to play within the group. The current MedStar interlocal, there is an interlocal agreement that will need to be dissolved in order for this to move forward, so that'll be the next step in this process. The cost allocation timeline established. Fort Worth is working really diligently and I put in that email that y'all might have saw earlier to figure out what the consideration is for the cost, and then going forward. Consistency in that cost too, looking at long-term contracts that may have some language in there to say if there are increases, maybe 10% or not to exceed this amount or whatever, but it should be structured to actually pay for the services you use so we don't get back in another situation where it's underfunded. So there's a lot of considerations to take in. There will be 0 interruptions to the current service. Nothing's in jeopardy. Nothing you want. The vast majority of the public won't see any change in what's going on, or all the public won't. High quality patient care will remain a high focus. That's unchanged. And the 911 call handling is the next evolution in this process to figure out how that's going to be done. I know Councilmember St. Clair reached out to talk about how 911 call handling is done today. I want to make sure everybody understands that process and kind of the challenges that are experienced today and where we're going. That's all for that, so I'll entertain any questions. And again, this won't be our last conversation that we have at a council meeting or through email, face-to-face. There will be many more of those, and there will be some formal actions that I'll bring forward that we'll have to take as well.
Council questions? Mary?
Is it your impression that these member cities are all leaning toward being in favor of this?
I think they've proceeded pretty cautiously, understandably, and there's been a lot of questions and a lot of discussions going on, but it is my impression that all of them will still remain a member of the group and receive the service as they do today.
I think an improvement will be that they'll all have a voice in decision-making.
Sure.
And then will all of the cities have an equal voice, including Fort Worth, or will Fort Worth have more of a voice since they're,
No, from the get-go, they've understood for this to remain multi-jurisdictional. Obviously, there's got to be an ultimate authority for decision-making, right? And there's a lot of money involved in a high critical service for cities. Ultimately, that resides with the Fort Worth City Council. But again, they're going to look for guidance and input from all the stakeholders and the subject matter experts. Every city will be created equally. I can't sit here and say, if I have a particular initiative that Saginaw wants to undertake, that it's going to override what Fort Worth and the majority want to do, but it is a
Right.
majority consensus for everything how we proceed forward. And
Oh,
Fort
I
Worth has
remember.
not shown anything that would give me any concern on any level that it won't operate much like it does today with all the stakeholders having equal input.
And if a number of member cities decided not to participate, would that have a very negative impact on the finances or anything?
Well, being that all of them combined are 10%, Haltom City's the next biggest one at 2.8, and we're about 1.4%. So the removal of any one member city is not going to put it in jeopardy. No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Council, other questions?
I just got one. I really appreciate you sending this stuff ahead of time, and I really appreciate you taking time to answer. I know I sent you a lot of questions, answer the questions, and it made the presentation take a lot very smooth. So
Yes, sir.
appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
And I want to commend Chief Spears. He's been our voice on this for quite a while, not only just keeping us, but also keeping our interests at the forefront. So we appreciate all the hard work you've done. And in talking to Fort Worth, they've been very transparent and want to work with us, so I'm comfortable what I've seen so far. Don't know the details yet, but so far so good, and I appreciate the chief staying on top of this. So,
Thank you, sir.
anything else, folks? All right, thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Moving to item 4. 4A, the applicant has pulled this application, so this is no longer needed to discuss. 4B, this is an SUP as well, but I need to hear from Bryn first, from our city attorney.
So, good evening, everyone. I spoke with the mayor and Gabe about this earlier, as well as Susie. I just wanted to point out some concerns that I have that I learned about recently, and that is, evidently, it's been rather difficult to impanel a full 5-member P&Z. So, as you may recall, Saginaw some time ago adopted the optional supermajority vote requirement if you receive a negative recommendation from P&Z. So ostensibly what you have is 3 members, which is evidently commonplace. Only 3 members show up for P&Z, and candidly only 2 of them have to vote no. Those 2 members could vote no. That triggers a supermajority vote of council. And in tonight's instance, where you're missing a member, you could have a scenario where 2 members of P&Z recommend denial, and that results in requiring a unanimous vote of council in order to override that decision. And so we just want to be careful. And so what I suggested, we have 2 items on the agenda. One of them was withdrawn. But I recommended to Susie that she ask both applicants if they would prefer for council to remand the case back to P&Z with the goal, obviously, of having full 5 members. Because when you have 5 members, you can still receive 2 no votes and not have the supermajority vote triggered. And you don't want a situation where it's the roll of the dice whether the applicant gets 5 people or 3 people, right? So Susie emailed both applicants, other than the one that withdrew. The other applicant, the vape shop, took her up on her request as to whether or not they wanted council to remand it back to P&Z. It's still council's decision whether to remand it. If you choose to do so, it would be with the hope and goal of impaneling a full 5-member P&Z so that they have 5 votes instead of just 3. If that's the case, if that's your preference, there's no need to hold the public hearing tonight and deliberate the item. Instead, what I think with due respect, what I think our homework should be if we do remand this back is to really work on P&Z having full membership. Other boards and commissions, not that they're less important, but they're truly advisory. They don't have the ability to trigger this supermajority or unanimous vote requirement. And typically, a lot of those boards don't have true applicants, right? They're there legislative advisory advisors on their subject matter expertise. And so that's really where we are this evening. So number one, they really would like to have it remanded back. And number two, if and when we do remand it back, we really should try to focus on finding at least 2 more people who will attend on a regular basis, if not 2 more regular members in addition to however many advisory, I've lost the word, the alternates, thank you. Alternate members and impaneling them as well, so that if a regular member or 2 can't attend the meeting, you at least have the alternates to be promoted up. So that's my 2 cents on the matter. That's my advice. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Yeah, any questions for Bren? Yes, Mary, please.
And I think that's a great idea, because those are very important decisions that are being made, and we need to have full participation. But would we need to redo the ordinance on the planning and zoning if we wanted to add 2 more alternates? Would we have to?
I don't know if Susie knows if she's here. I don't know how many alternates you're supposed to have on P and Z. Is it 2? I mean, candidly, I think 2 alternates is sufficient, but they need to attend.
Right.
So I don't know that we need to have 4 alternates.
Oh, I thought that's what you were
Right, no, I'm
suggesting.
sorry. So my understanding is you have 5 regular members and 2 alternates.
Right.
But as of late, only 3 people attend those meetings.
And those of us on the committee to suggest, who should be on these various committees, need to make it very clear to that particular committee that they're making a commitment to attend those meetings.
So yeah, planning and zoning and the Board of Adjustment are essential. Board of Adjustment has final decision-making authority, and planning and zoning has the ability to trigger for instance, tonight, a unanimous vote requirement to override P and Z. So those 2 boards and commissions, I think, should be legally the primary focus to impanel the folks that will assure us that they will attend. Obviously, emergencies come up, right? And so I don't think we should set unrealistic expectations, but just generally, if you want to be on those 2 boards, it's vitally important that we have at least a full regular membership, so every voting seat is present. Just so that the applicant doesn't have to think, well, I only got 3 people, but if I had come last month, gosh, I would have had 5 people, and then I would have survived the vote. For instance, you have a 1 in favor and 2 against. That could, if with a full 5-member panel, that could be 3 in favor and 2 against. Alternatively, obviously this isn't ideal, but if we just simply cannot impanel 5 people to show up once or twice a month, then I would recommend that we repeal the supermajority trigger ordinance so that you basically relegate them to a purely advisory committee.
And I think we had discussed that our charter does actually specify
That's right.
the makeup of the board.
Correct.
And if we wanted to, make it a 7-member and 2 alternates, something, we would have to have
A charter.
an election.
That's correct. Thank you.
But if we do decide to update the charter again, some in 2 or 3 years there might be multiple reasons to do so,
Sure.
then that would be a good chance to solve that problem.
Well, and I don't know that the solution is adding more seats. What we have is an absenteeism problem. And so adding more seats, I don't think necessarily cures that problem. I think what we need to do is focus on finding people that can offer some assurance that they really want to serve.
Right.
Yeah, the issue here is that, and we're fixing to come up to where we look at all of the committees it's on, all the committees, and year before last, we changed that to say that we would be looking at participation, and not just P and Z. We've heard that throughout this year, that Parks and Recs and others, people aren't participating. So we as council, these committees all represent us, we need to take that seriously and look at it and people who's not participating, we need to move them off because they're not doing their job, and we need to start right now, our citizens, and tell them that, the great city of Fort Worth needs their help. We need
We're not
them
Fort
to
Worth.
participate. Oh,
I don't care what Fort Worth needs.
okay. City of Saginaw, sitting here reading Fort Worth. City of Saginaw needs their help. So that's really it. To me, I absolutely do agree with Amanda in this back. It's too important. This person, this company deserves their say.
Right.
Now, the key is who reaches out to all the members on the P and Z and makes sure that we have 5 of them there. I mean, I got no problem personally as a council member calling every dang one of them. But I don't know if that's right for me to do it. I got no problem doing it.
No, that would be a staff, that would be Susie's job, and she's the staff liaison to P and Z.
Okay.
That would be
Well,
an action item for her.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
purely up to council.
yeah,
That's right.
but the committees report to council too. So that's fine. So I got no problem reporting them, but we need to take it serious, call them up. They raised their right hand. They committed to this. We need to put pressure on them. They need to do their job.
Are there any other questions for Bryn on 4B? If not, I'll entertain a motion to remand.
Mayor, I move that we remand this back to the P and Z for them to have at least 5 voting members.
I'll second.
Valerie, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, folks. We look forward to this moving forward. Item 4C at 6:53, we're in a public hearing. Action regarding ordinance 2024-06, amending section 502, application of Article 5, final plat and construction documents of Appendix B subdivision of the Saginaw City Code. Kim Quinn, Finance Director.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. If you recall, a few months ago, we were required to change the way we calculate not rental inspection fees, construction inspection fees. It used to be a percentage of the value. We're no longer allowed to do that. When we don't get the value, it causes an issue as far as the city knowing how much the improvement that eventually gets put on the city books is. So this ordinance will require the developers to still give us a value, even though we won't be using it to calculate the fees, but just for insurance purposes and to book the assets. So that's what this ordinance will do.
Questions for Kim? Questions, comments, council? All right. This is a public hearing, so audience is allowed to participate, ask questions. The microphone is open if anyone would like to speak at this point. Seeing none at 6:54, take us out of a public hearing, and I entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-06 as stated.
I'll second.
Brack, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, guys. Are you getting all these, Janice, am I moving too fast? Okay. Item 5, oath of office. City Secretary Janice England.
Okay, as you recall, we had the May 4th election. We had a special meeting last Tuesday to canvass the results of that election. At that meeting, we also gave the oath of office to Councilmember Lawson, who was reelected, and Councilmember St. Clair, who was newly elected. Mayor Filippo was not able to be at that meeting, so we need to take a moment tonight to give him the oath of office.
I, Todd Flippo. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully execute. The duties of the office. Of mayor. Of the city of Saginaw. Of the state of Texas. And will to the best of my abilities. Preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution. And laws of the United States. And of this state. And the ordinances of the city of Saginaw. So help me God. Thank you. 4B. 4B, election of mayor pro tem. I will entertain nominations for mayor pro tem. Mary?
Yes, in the spirit of providing opportunities for other council members, I would like to nominate Paul Falegi.
I will second that nomination. We take a vote just like normal, right, Brendan?
You can, or you can handle it informally.
Let's take a vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Flaggy. Thank you. Look forward to working with you, sir. 4C, consideration action regarding appointment of council subcommittees for board appointment. This is very timely for our discussion we just had. I believe last year the three on the committee were Cindy, Nick,
It was myself, Cindy, and
Mary.
Mary.
Okay. Y'all want to serve again, or would y'all like to spread it around?
Sir, I think that in the spirit, because we've done it every time, that the newest member of council should be on there.
I have no problem with that. Who, we want Brack on there, who else wants to be on there? We want to put Cindy back on, Cindy's not here to speak for herself. Want to put her back on there? You think she wants to be? Okay. And then Paul?
Yeah.
So Brack, Cindy, Paul, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this subcommittee's got some work to do.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, one thing, when I talked to Bren, we discussed, we need to make it easier for folks to serve on committees, not harder. So how we do that, less hoops to jump through, whatever. Obviously, we're having an issue getting people to serve, not just show up, but just to serve, period. So let's keep that in mind. I think this subcommittee will have their work ahead of them, and I think they can do a good job. So I look forward to hearing back from y'all. So thank y'all. 5D, consideration action regarding citywide classification and compensation plan. Melanie McManus, Director of Human Resources.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So basically, in your packet, it sort of kind of gives a background of the compensation study. So on August 15th, Council approved for Baker Tilly to do the study. Through August through March, they did that comprehensive study. Came back on March 19th. Jada did a presentation to y'all and gave the recommendations. As far as approving the proposed step plan alignment with 100% of the market at midpoint, approving the proposed grade assessment assignments established by feedback of the city leadership, approve the implementation scenario that addresses the city compensation philosophy, and then recommend the implementation of the option 2 of the employees move to the step corresponding to the years in the position. So basically tonight, what we're wanting to do is get approval of the new step plan so we can go forward. And then also, Councilmember St. Clair noticed that on the presentation, which I put a copy on y'all's desk, the amount under the current salary was based off 10 million and it should have been 11 million. So on option 2, the increase is going to be 12.7% instead of 13.2, and then on option 3 it's going to be instead of 21.1, it's going to be 20.3.
Hey, Brack's saving us money already. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, there you go.
So what we're requesting, staff recommends that y'all approve the new step plan as presented through Baker Tilly.
Questions for Melanie or for any questions, Council?
Well, I have a statement. I'm just kind of curious. I'm just curious why we're not waiting to do this until the budget process starts, because anything we approve with costs that much, we as a group, can't even read, need to know the numbers or amounts that we have to work with on the budget before we could approve this. And I'm not saying not to give anybody a raise, so don't think that at all. But I know that in October of '23, all the employees got a 10% raise, correct? Mm-hmm. And so, and I'm pretty sure that all the city council wants the employees to get up to the most affordable pay that we can do as quick as we can, and I understand that. But I think that we need to, don't we need to wait until the budget so we know what we're doing with? Because you can't put the cart in front of the horse without it crashing, because if we say we want to do option 2, and then budget comes around and we can't, every employee in the city are going to be upset with us. So I think that it might be a better option, I don't know, but if we wait until the budget process so we know what we're working with, because it might be more than what we wanted on option 2. And so I just don't think we need to rush into this. It is a high priority on all of our lists. And And I think we need to compare the current plan with the proposed plan a little bit, because a little bit of what I read, there's some employees that do more than one job, and we want to be competitive with the other cities. And I don't know if that was considered or not. And so can we get like a copy of the current one so we can compare it with the proposed one? Can we do that?
Sure.
And just so the employees know, I'm not saying that this is a no answer. I just want us to wait so that we don't disappoint you if we have to, because we don't have the funds to do it.
Well, let's remember, we're not, are you done? I'm sorry, I didn't
Yes,
interrupt you.
yes.
We're not voting on option 1, 2, or 3 tonight. That's not what we're voting on. We're just voting on the structure as a whole. We're not voting on what anybody's gonna make or what a raise anybody's gonna get tonight. That's not tonight. It's just the new pay grade.
New step pay plan.
This is just the step plan?
Yes.
Okay, but can we compare it with the current one and the,
That was in our packet. We already looked at that and discussed that last time.
I didn't have the current one, I just have the new one.
It's in the packet.
So, and Mayor and Council, I would add, this was a request at the last meeting from the City Council, I think maybe specifically Councilmember Lawson. Again, to the mayor's point, this is, would adopt the new pay plan, which would not be funded. This would be a deliberation y'all will, and discussion you'll have the next few months and to determine what adjustments through the budget process you would.
So this is just to approve the
This
step
is to
plan
approve-
itself?
Yes, I hope at this point, certainly, Ms. Kent from Baker Tilly is available for one-on-one questions. But I think everybody acknowledges that, based on the city surveyed and the market, that our existing plan needed to change to be more
It does.
competitive.
It does.
I think, again, want to be clear to everybody here, this is not yet funded, as we talk about this through the summer. I think this is helpful for filling existing vacancies, when we can say and we can point to, here's our adopted plan, here's our step system, that sort of thing, and would like to recognize and thank the City Council again for the adjustment last year. It's proven that it's got people's attention. We have about cut our vacancies in PD in half, and we're fully staffed in other departments. So this is kind of a housekeeping item. The substantial discussions related to the dollar amounts will be forthcoming.
Right, this is really step one
Yes.
of what Baker Tilly recommended. We're not, nobody is getting a raise tonight, guys, sorry. I just want y'all, nobody's getting a raise tonight. Nobody's not getting a raise tonight, but that's not our discussion tonight. It's just the new step plan. That was Baker Tilly's recommendation based on just to scrap our entire thing, get a new plan that's more reflective of the market.
Yeah, and the job descriptions were given to Baker Tilly for every position, and they based it off of the job descriptions with the market
Very good point.
and the analysis. And there was only one job description and position that did not match, and we don't even have that position anymore out of all the job titles that we had.
Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so the reason we won't do this right now is because this is what a lot of people refer to as low-hanging fruit. It gets it out of the way, gets this stuff out of the way so that when we do have the discussions on the budget, we don't have to worry about that. It gives
We don't have to worry about that.
the other people to then start doing that then.
Oh, okay.
Okay? They can go ahead and start making these changes so that when this other stuff happens, it comes. It's literally just a methodical way of going through it. You're not having to eat the whole pie at one time. Now, the second thing, I absolutely do not want the employees of Saginaw to sit here and think for 1 minute the council's trying to kick this down the road.
No.
If for 1 minute I thought that was happening, I'd be standing up, jumping up and down on top of this desk. I will state this, in my mind, now, I'm only one of 7, but in my mind, we cannot not afford to do this. There's nothing no more important than Saginaw that makes Saginaw run, makes Saginaw what Saginaw is, than our employees. And we had an outside firm that did an excellent job. They came up with 3 options. They recommended option B. I know what my job is. My job on council is to make sure option B happens. So whatever has to happen to our budget to make that happen, I'm willing to do it. If we have to shut down the water pool, I got no problem. I got no problem doing any of that to get this. This is one of the most important things outside of, like I say, actually, the other critical things. But this is that important, I feel, to the city. It's just my personal opinion, me on council, And I kind of heard rumors back that certain people, certain things are saying that, oh, the council's just going to kick this down the road, we're not going to do nothing. We're going to do something, and we're going to do it during the thing. You know, just hang with us, you know, it'll get done right.
And then one other thing on the classification, you know, they changed the structure, but they didn't change it so much so it would be drastic. So they just
Right.
changed the numbering, and then instead of step 1 or minimum 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever, they went A, B, C, D all the way through I. So the structure is the same. It's just the amount to pay is what changed.
Are there other questions? Brad, go ahead.
So, so if we have a vacancy that gets filled after tonight,
It'll be updated.
they would immediately begin at
What the current one
what
is.
the-
What the current one
that
is.
they'd
Because
be
that
put on
has
the
to go
current
with-
one.
Yes, because that goes with the fiscal year
Okay.
that's now.
So the approval tonight is really just to make sure that when we come to the new fiscal year, then that is when the new step plan will be implemented.
Mary?
And I also think this will provide a framework, and I think it will probably help Gabe and Kim in their budgeting proposals, having more concrete numbers to show us. And then we will know whether or not we have a problem and whether or not we have to look for ways to cut.
Correct.
Other questions, council? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 5D as presented.
Mary, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it. All right, 5E, consideration action regarding arson canine vehicle replacement. Chief Doug Spears.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, again. This fiscal year, we were budgeted to replace the vehicle in the fire department that we used to transport the canine. Obviously, we know the tragedy that happened with Sheldon, so we wisely used those funds for another unscheduled vehicle replacement as a result of a collision. So fortunately, we've been able to get another dog for the fire department. So we're asking approval to spend fund balance in the amount of $25,000 to go ahead and purchase that vehicle in the fire department. That's what the request is for. I don't really have anything to add other than what was in the council memo.
Okay. Council questions? Questions for Chief?
He answered all mine. Good.
All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the consideration and action for the arson canine vehicle replacement.
Okay. Have a second? Paul, second. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. 5E, consideration action regarding Basswood Boulevard traffic control improvements. Randy Newsom, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is a follow-up from the last council meeting where we had a large crowd present to council about their concerns about traffic issues up and down the corridor of Basswood, especially between 156 and Grand Central. Took those suggestions from the residents as well as some others that were kicked around to us, and following council's direction, we went back and put a number to these improvements for the residents' concerns. And in your package, you'll see Trenton come up with a cost estimate, which these funds could come from the ARPA funds, which is an enhanced pedestrian school crossing, which is one of the residents' concerns. And when I say enhanced, it's raised, lit with lights, strobes, beacons. That would require the removal of 3 of the road panels over there in order to raise the crossing. 4-way flashing stop sign LEDs at all the 4-way stop signs at Basswood and Grand Central. 2 LED speed limit signs, one each way, one coming off of 156 and then one coming back from Bailey Box. And also at the 4-way stop, there was some concerns and interest in putting the advanced warning raised pavement markers in advance of all the stop signs at the intersection of Basswood and Grand Central. And the total for that, all of that work to be done would be $245,000.
And that all comes out of ARPA?
ARPA.
Outstanding. Council questions?
Do you happen to know what the price difference would be if we got the signs that would only activate on people who are exceeding the limit? The speed limit signs are constantly flashing, as I understand it. Do you know what the difference would be?
I know they're more expensive, the radar feedback signs. I don't know exactly how much more expensive they'd be. We did discuss those. The challenge with that would be, since it's a 6-lane divided roadway, we think it wouldn't be very effective because, which lane are you going to choose to radar versus,
Okay, thank you.
I know when I talked to you, and thanks for talking to me today, that where you're putting the speed signs as you're entering into Basswood on each side, that made me feel a lot better because, and the reason for that is on both sides, we're going from a 40 mile an hour to a 30 mile an hour. And it's even worse than that. We're going from a 40 mile an hour 4-lane to a 30 mile an hour 6-lane. So when you start looking at it and you start talking to people driving and, they don't know they're leaving Fort Worth coming into Saginaw, kind of common sense tells you if I'm going from a 4-lane to a 6-lane, the speed should go up, not down. So I really like that, and that was one of the questions I'd earlier had is how are we warning people coming in that we're dropping their speed limit going to from 4 to 6. We're dropping their speed limit 10 mile an hour and increasing on each side of the lane. So I really, with that being understood, I can kind of understand the flashing light, and I think that it serves a very good purpose the way you guys designed it to go there. I will say that one thing that isn't on here, and I want to make sure it doesn't just get kicked down the road because I did some walk. I live in that neighborhood, but I also went look. As you walk through there and you see the way kids flow through there, I know why now they want that sidewalk on the other side because there's absolutely no way for the kids, young adults, because it's high school, to get from the high school to some of those roads with either out having to walk where there is not a sidewalk, or they play Frogger across 6 lanes of Basswood.
We did look at that, and Trenton is going to have to do a survey and do a utility conflict study over there because there are some utilities in there. We'll probably have to be relocated.
What if we take those 2 extra lanes we got, turn it into a bike lane, and put sidewalks there?
That's certainly an option.
I mean, I just put it back to 4 lanes like Fort Worth has. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying let's think out of the box, guys.
Yeah, so we're looking into that. We've got, Saginaw has a study coming up with the safety action plan.
Yeah.
It's going to study this corridor and look at options of, do we need to talk about narrowing the lanes, reducing the lanes? How are we going to handle these intersections moving forward? So that's an option that I think should be considered whenever that's studied. But we are going to continue just with a high-level OPCC of what it would cost to add those sidewalks, just so we have that information. But it's taking longer than just last week to make sure I have that information correct. But it's an easy exercise, so we're going to finish running that exercise just so we have that number.
Okay, be good. And the flashing red lights, we did get some data on that, went and looked at some things, and statistically speaking, by having that flashing red light can
The stop
decrease
sign.
people running stop lines by up to 50%.
Yeah, well, the study said it decreased blow-throughs by 53%.
Yeah, so.
I will say, I did a little more digging on that and looked at the crashes that have occurred at those 2 intersections. And since 2019, there have been 12 crashes at the stop signs of Basswood and Grand Central.
Yeah.
But at the Basswood and High Country, there's only been 1 crash since 2019. So I think, obviously what we presented is what was requested minus the sidewalks, but I think there should be consideration if there's really the value in the LED lit signs at the Basswood and High Country intersection.
Yeah.
Mary, do you have a question?
I just wanted to commend the Public Works staff for jumping on this and prioritizing it. I know how busy you all are and how many projects you have going. So that says a lot for you, in trying to help that issue out.
Do you have any ETA on when the analysis for that sidewalk will get done, or even what we would recommend?
So we're not doing the survey or the utility conflict analysis quite yet. We're just looking at a more detailed opinion of price for it. We should have that done next week, middle of next week, early next week. So we'll have that ballpark figure, but what we are trying to accomplish today was more just what we could construct and design without survey, because survey would really be the delay in getting to construction. So ideally, this could get under construction end of this summer, some timeline like that.
And I know Nikki's not saying hold anything up for sidewalk. You're
Oh,
saying
no, absolutely not.
next.
Yeah, I'm already thinking, to me,
Yeah.
this is already kind of a done deal. We just have to take a vote. I'm already off to the next thing.
We'll have some of that info. We'll have all that info next week.
Yeah.
And it's at the top of the list of the sidewalk program. I think just the consideration of where does the funding come from, and then does it make sense if we really are going to consider reducing the lanes down to 4 lanes rather than 6?
I think we need to thank our police department also
That's a good point.
thank you, all you guys.
Lots of extra tickets on Basswood.
That's okay.
So I've heard lots and lots of tickets.
That's what you get.
Good work, folks.
Also would like to just
Got a question for Kim on the ARPA funds. Is there, I believe there's an expiration date on that, and then where we have to actually spend the money or we have to give it back?
Correct. We have about just under $1 million left that's not obligated. It needs to be obligated by December 31st of 2024. We have a plan to get that obligated. And then it has to actually be spent by December 31st of 2026. So we're on track to meet both of those deadlines. We don't want to give any of that money back.
Amen. You're here. Yes, Mary, please.
I wanted to second what Valerie said about the police department. They have been working so hard. And also, I neglected to mention Trent with Kimley Horn, working so hard on that project too, our city engineer. Thank you.
And it's a good point to mention the police department. Chief Raxel gets blamed for all the traffic. It's not his fault, but he gets blamed, brought in to fix it, and we appreciate y'all being professional.
Guys have actually done a phenomenal job. I'm not out there personally writing tickets, but Patrol's done a phenomenal job on addressing those complaints.
You're here. No, we really appreciate it, folks.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I want to point out that, there was some discussion about the rumble strips, and that's the reason why we went with the raised buttons. Because if it does become a noise issue, they can be easily removed. So we just come through with a bucket.
Very good point. All right, any other questions on this? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve the improvements on Basswood Boulevard as spelled out.
I second.
Valerie, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank y'all. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Great effort getting this done very quickly. 5G, consider action regarding resolution 2024-7, creation of Traffic Safety Advisory Board. Mayor Pro Tem Paul Flake.
Strange hearing that. Yes, the last meeting, I addressed the council and the residents about establishing a traffic safety advisory board, now referred to as a TSAB, and I'd like to go ahead and move forward with this ordinance 2024-07. Basically, this will create a forum for residents to voice traffic concerns, suggestions, and requests, work with city staff to examine alternatives to existing traffic situations, identify long and short-term solutions. The TSAB will, with the assistance of city manager or designee, shall post all meeting schedules, agendas, and minutes following the same format that we're doing with our existing boards. The board would consist of 5 regular members and 2 alternates. And in addition to that, we would have a representative from the police department, Public Works, City Hall, and a possible liaison with City Council.
Questions? Questions, council? Yes, Brent.
I apologize, can I just dovetail into that? I've been working with Paul. I appreciate Nikki and Paul providing me the content for this document. So number one, we discussed after the agenda was posted, I think the original charge was for me to create this by resolution, which is fine. It creates the board, it's lawful, et cetera. It just doesn't go in the code of ordinances. And so after the packet was posted, visited with Paul, and his preference would be, as the other boards are codified, to codify this as well. So the instrument here is an ordinance, even though the agenda says resolution. It really has no legal bearing with the agenda, but just to point that out. And then there was one provision that I wasn't able to complete, and it's because it's a policy choice for you all. Proposed section 66-335 talks about when this board should meet. And you really have two options. I can remove the designation of the time and day of the month that they meet and just let them decide what works best with staff. Or we can say they'll meet the first, second, or fourth, third Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday at 6 p.m.
I think we leave it open to them. I think that all the others just said they needed to meet once a month.
And this one is set for once every 2 months. We can
Yeah.
certainly change it however, yeah, right. So however.
I'm okay either way, but
Okay.
Once
I
every 2
definitely-
months sounds good, yeah.
So then if this is, I apologize, Mary. Okay. If you all wish to approve this, I would just approve it with that change, that essentially you take out the designation of when they meet and allow the board to do so, to make that decision on their own, and then I'll make the edit after the fact.
Yes, Mary, please go ahead.
This is for Chief Ragsdale. I mentioned the other meeting about, we are divided into 4 sections for patrol purposes.
Yes, ma'am.
So is one section way worse on the traffic issue, or are they all about the same? Or I'm just trying to determine whether or not we need representation from each quadrant.
So typically, what we're divided into is 4 districts. Those districts are split fairly evenly when you look at traffic enforcement. District 3, which is the Basswood area, has a slightly higher enforcement rate than the other 3 districts. District 4 is it's kind of that south east side of town, and probably has a little less traffic enforcement just because it's more commercial than what it is residential. But really and truly, they're close to being equal throughout the city between the 4 districts.
So, Paul, since you're on the committee, it might be difficult to have representation from each quadrant, but if you could keep that in mind and try to do that, that might be a good idea. But I don't think we should put it in the.
Yeah, I wouldn't want
ordinance.
to tie us down, because it's going to be hard to get folks. I want to
Yeah.
take, the best people that step up. If we can get spread out, great. If not, we need folks, so, yeah. Other questions, council?
Just comment, Brendan, there's one more edit that has to come on this.
Sure.
Need to take Flower Mound out and make it Saginaw. It's because of all the changes.
Well, literally,
We're not Fort Worth or Flower Mound.
I apologize. I've been,
It's okay. That's why we all look at it. Bunch of different eyes, right? All right, other questions? Any other questions on 5G? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-07, establishing the Traffic Safety Advisory Board.
With the improvements that you made.
Yes.
I'll second.
Valerie, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Wait. Great, folks. Look forward to it. 5H, consider action regarding new design of city street signs. Randy Newsom, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is actually one of our work plan projects that we've started kind of working on. As y'all are well aware, our street signs, we have a hodgepodge of 4-inch up to 6 to 9-inch, and they're different styles. And so we got with Trenton and we come up with one that's in your packet. We thought it come up pretty sharp, kind of matches with our logo if we stay with that logo. We can always change it if we don't, but right now that was when we wanted to get in front of y'all, let y'all get a look at it, kind of give us some feedback, and if we want to go with that one. I like it a lot. It has a lot of information on it, which our street signs do not have right now, like such as the block with the arrows pointing which way you're supposed to go. And it gets us in a uniform kind of look to the city as far as the street signs go. The topper is a different kind of animal because a lot of the HOAs, like Heather Ridge, they have their own design, and so I think we'd like to have a little bit more time to work on the topper and come back to y'all with the topper ideas and how to fund those. But if we can get the street signs approved where we can start targeting and getting some costs together, we can come back to y'all with, this is gonna cost X number of dollars, and fund it and get these signs on the way.
Council questions, comments for Mr. Newsom?
Yeah, Randy, is there any kind of like huck fasteners or some type of fasteners that we can use with these new signs so they don't disappear?
There are. Yeah, the blade signs are much easier to secure, and that's what we're going to have to attach.
Don't ever underestimate high school kids.
You're correct.
That's right.
Just when you think you got a beat, they beat you.
They find some way.
Yep.
Other questions?
I like it.
I'm glad we're making this choice.
Yes.
All right. If no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the action regarding the new design of the city street signs.
Do you have a
As
second?
presented.
Brack, second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, guys. All right. Very nice.
You know, now that he's got his work plan done, we're going to have to think of a bunch of other work for him to do.
I know.
I don't think he's going to be bored. So.
No.
All right, so executive session. We are not going to do 6C. Bryn really covered that earlier in open session. We will do 6E, so pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.087, deliberation regarding economic development, council will remove, and then we will return to adjourn at 7:28.
When you said
Wow, and I thought this was gonna be a late one. What's that?
I was about to leave my thing there. I'm gonna get the hell out of here.